NEPM's podcasts are funded by Armbrook Village Senior Living in Westfield, offering assisted living and compass memory support with evidence-based treatment for those with memory loss. More at armbrookvillage.com. The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Northeast Solar, helping customers make the switch to solar for savings, energy security, and tax incentives. Learn more at northeast-solar.com.
Welcome to the Fabulous 413. I'm Khalees Smith.
And I'm Monte Belmonte. Later in the show, New York Times bestselling author from Amherst, Angela DiTerlizzi, joins us to explore the magical yet, the curious why, and other conditions of keeping your mind open to the many possibilities the world has on the horizon.
And as giant nerds, we both were saddened to hear of the loss of James Earl Jones yesterday at 93.
Does that count as the lamentation of the women?
Only if I have first seen my enemies driven before me. But since the man truly did amazing things over the course of his career, we'll reminisce on his impact on the entertainment world. But first, art for the people, sort of by the people.
It's a beautiful day in my neighborhood. Oh, Mr. Rogers, and I'm looking at the side of the building known as the Shea Theater on Avenue A in Turners Falls, where, full disclosure, I'm a volunteer member of the board, but where, at this very moment, a mural is being painted on the side of the building by
Darion Fleming.
Darion, where are you from?
Charlotte, North Carolina.
What's a guy from Charlotte, North Carolina doing here in Turners Falls painting the mural on the side of the building? Maybe we should talk to the folks behind the murals that you see all over this part of the Commonwealth and beyond. What's your name?
My name is Britt Ruhe. I'm the director of Commonwealth Murals.
I'm lucky because I drive from Turners Falls to Springfield, and I drive all around Springfield all the time, and I see gorgeous murals popping up all over the place. Now I could drive into town on the way home and see another gorgeous mural that Commonwealth Murals has put on.
Like your constant companion.
Yeah, right? They follow me everywhere, and they pop. They really make a city sing. The Holyoke murals are so amazing when I go visit them. For those who don't know what Commonwealth Murals is, though, what is it?
We are a nonprofit mural management organization, and we specialize in murals that involve the community in the design and painting of the murals.
So this community here, despite the fact that it's on a building that I'm very much associated with, I've had zero input into any of the conversations or anything having to do with this mural.
It's actually been really interesting listening to you talk about this whole process from where your position with this building and the organization is.
Yeah.
Because you really have had they're going to put a mural on maybe. I don't know. It's they want one. We'll see.
I guess there was a public comment period too where one of the comments was what should or shouldn't be on the mural, and one of them was Monte Belmonte's face should not be part of the mural. And I didn't know about this until somebody just randomly said it to me on the street, and I was like, oh, now I know what you're talking about. But the town people that are involved with the buildings here are...
I'm Suzanne Lomanto, the director of River Culture, the creative economy program of the town of Montague.
And what's your name?
Maureen Pollack, town planner.
Is that your full name? Oh, Maureen Pollack.
Maureen
Pause.
Pollack, pause, town planner.
Implied commas.
Yeah. So tell us how this process came about. I know, Suzanne, you've been talking about this with the Shea board for a long time. It's something that the town is excited about.
Yeah, Maureen and I met with Britt about a year ago. This is a long process. It took about a year for us to get to this point. There have been meetings with the select board, municipal departments, and town committees, the Shea board, local residents. So we're really excited to get to this point. It took a long time for us to go through this process, but we're very happy that Darion was selected, and we're really happy with the results so far.
Tell us about the selection process. How did we come to meet Darion?
We put out a call for art.
We hired Commonwealth Murals to help guide us in this overall process. This is our first large-scale public art project, and we wanted to have an expert guide us through the process. And we created a steering group to help prepare and review all the steps along the way, including the RFP, the call to artists, and assisting with community engagement and public outreach, and reviewing the actual applications, and reviewing the designs and selecting the ultimate design. On that steering group, it includes representatives from Turners Falls and businesses, so includes Richie Richardson.
Who's an awesome fashion designer who's right over there, around the corner.
Yep.
He's been on the show.
Pete Chilton.
Who used to work for NEPM, who now runs what did he do? He work with Nova Motorcycles?
Correct, yep. And he's a graphic designer on the side.
Yeah, that's what he did for NEPM.
Yes.
Oh, great. The lovely Linda Tardif,
Who?
Never heard of her.
Director of the Shea Theater.
Lisa Duvall, former market director with the Chamber of Commerce and resident of Turners Falls.
And the founder of River Culture, who I feel like if
Yes!
there's one person that I can point to that really waved a banner for this village to try to say, hey, it could be really cool here, it's Lisa Duvall.
Absolutely. Josh Goldman.
Treasurer of the Shea Board, which is why I'm out of it.
Leo Huang of UMass, and my bandmate.
Yes.
Cool bandmate indeed to have. So everybody came together.
They came together, they helped create the process, review the applications. We got over 350 applications, which we were blown away. Britt was blown away. And through the review process with the steering group, we ultimately picked Darion. And we're very excited to work with him. And he is painting the mural as we speak.
And that's where you can hear the traffic down Avenue A going out here. We're outside the Shea. How did we come to the consensus with Darion?
We liked his experience painting gigantic murals. This is a big wall. This is 3,000 square feet. This is a marathon.
Bigger than my house.
He'll come paint your house maybe out
No.
In his application, he showed a real willingness to work with the community, and he has phenomenal painting skills. So between those three things, he rose to the top, and it was a unanimous decision.
Darion, how did you hear about this in order to apply?
I was sent this via Instagram by a really good friend and fellow artist in Charlotte, North Carolina. He just said, this looks like a cool project, you should apply. And I was like, yeah, it does, so I will.
What did you know about this part of the world before coming here, and us, even before we started chatting today, peppering you with local history and lore?
I haven't been to Massachusetts, but I've been to Maine a few times. My father grew up there, so I went there as a child to visit my grandma.
And that used to be Massachusetts, so it practically counts.
Yeah, New England. It's all one thing. So.
No, it's
Except
not.
except you, Connecticut.
It's not all the same.
No, but something I'm trying to do more in my career is travel and meet new people and create new relationships and just experience new places like Turner's. And then hopefully kind of develop my style and artwork and direction in that way. And that's already kind of happening. It's been such a great experience here so far. Everyone's so kind, and yeah, it's just been great.
Has this work changed at all from your initial idea for it?
During my process, there's like always a few different, ideations and concepts and things I go through before I land on something. This idea came fairly quickly. I haven't done something where community input meeting was like, it was a pretty large community input meeting. I think there was.
So remember that, you people, when you complain about the mural, which you inevitably will.
I think there were like 12, 13 pages or something. You
can find all the public comments on the project page.
Yeah.
And the design, the concept, really came from the community input. That we made clear from the beginning that this mural design would be a reflection. Oh, nice little farmer truck going by.
Farmer truck going by. Sprayer.
So the design is a reflection of the community input provided at the in-person session that we had and an online survey that we offered.
Does that make it harder as an artist when you have to be dealing with so many opinions?
It was a lot. It was a lot to take in, but I mean, you're really just focusing on the main overlying points that a lot of people were hitting on, which was just the nature and the surrounding area and the beauty of it, and how much people love just kind of being enthralled in that, and just all the running water and the Connecticut rivers right here, and there's so many trails around here, and I personally have a very strong connection, mental health wise and all that to nature, and getting into nature to kind of heal myself. And so I just wanted to create an image that sort of spoke to that and had this human connection to nature and what it can do as far as healing and connecting all of us. So
I said what I said. I'd rather be famous.
Coming up, an experiment in imagination as we attempt to show you visually through the radio what the gorgeous new Shea mural looks like.
And if you are curious why the magical yet has become a New York Times bestseller, we'll introduce you to the author, Amherst's Angela DiTerlizzi.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
All right, Trolley. Neighborhood of make-believe.
I'm looking at the side of the Shea Theater on Avenue A in Turners Falls, where, at this very moment, a mural is being painted on the side of the building by
Darion Fleming.
I want everyone who's listening, unless you're driving, to close your eyes and imagine what this mural looks like before you come see it when it's finished. Describe what your design is like, Darion.
So it's two people embracing each other, arms wrapped around each other's backs, looking into the distance, and one figure is just kind of covered in this forest image, which is actually a local image of a forest here in Massachusetts from a photographer named Patrick Zephyr. He has some really incredible work, very like nature-centric photography, and this one really spoke to me. I think it's called Summer Fog or Fall Fog or something like that. So it had this very like mystical kind of look to it.
Little Twin Peaksy.
Never seen so many trees in my life. As W.C. Fields would say, I'd rather be here than Philadelphia.
Yeah, which I really loved that, and so I played into that a little bit with the colors and made them a little more, kind of cool hued and greenish bluish, just to make them kind of contrast a bit with the grayscale body to the left of it. And clash a bit with the orange in the background, and still some things to add and go into the forest and add some details and leaves and sticks and all these different things. So that's going to be really fun. But yeah, it's really rounding out now, and I'm starting to really love the way it looks. So
I think it's really neat that it takes a minute to see the trees, and I'm not sure what it'll be like finished with like extra detail, but I kind of love how subtle it is and how it takes a minute for it to pop up. Well, otherwise, you're just like, it's cute, they're hugging.
Well, I love that about it too, but I mean, like, seeing the nature through it is amazing, like a lens, but it's also like, it's two human bodies. I think that there's almost anybody that could imagine themselves in either of those bodies.
And that's the idea, yeah. So this is actually a reference photo that I took of myself and my wife, just so that I could have the basic shapes of the figures. But I did very purposefully keep out her hair and defining features that would make her, a woman. And so I really wanted it to be just very like either sex, either race. It doesn't matter who it is. You can just picture yourself here, standing here as this person with this connection to nature. And I like to do that with my work a lot so that people can see it and kind of resonate with it more and like picture themselves in it more rather than it being very not them,
That being said, I'm going to tell half the people that it's an interracial gay couple.
Okay.
And then the other half of the people I'm going to say it's a Trump rally.
And that works too. So it's like
No, you are not.
One of the beautiful things about this image that was so interesting to me when we did the community input session.
And this is Britt Ruhe of Commonwealth Murals, who is behind a bunch of murals throughout our area.
So I do a lot of listening to the community about what they want to see in murals. And so often they name individual people, their neighbors, their family members, often their mother, who they feel like has done something amazing and represents their community. And here in Turner's, not only did they say not Monte.
Thank God.
But they said no one person. Like, we asked the question, is there someone you would want to see represented in the mural? And it was unanimously, that is not what we're about here in Turner's. We're about community, like the we above the me. And it was so striking how articulate and strong people felt about that concept, and I see that really reflected in the design.
Is the amount of feedback you got for this particular mural at the Shea on Avenue A in Turner's more than you usually get for Commonwealth murals? Or is it about the same? Or?
That's a good question. I would say it was more, but not more than I expected. So,
what is so divisive about murals? I mean, it really boggles my mind that anytime anybody puts up a mural, like half the world hates it for no good reason half the time.
Hopefully not half the world hates it.
Yeah, you probably know the statistics better than I do, but yeah, I certainly hear it from the cranks a lot louder.
Yes, that's true. Well, it's art, and if people ever think art doesn't matter, all they need to do is listen to people talk about a mural, because people really care. Art makes a difference. It changes the whole vibe and the feel of a space and speaks messages really loudly. And whether people acknowledge that or can articulate it, they understand it, so they have, strong opinions about it.
Everybody agreed about art to be boring.
Yeah, exactly. Linda Tardif, director of the Shea Theater, tell me what this mural means on the side of this building for you and for the Shea.
Yeah, I'm lucky enough to steward a public arts building, and we partner with a town that has gotten behind public art in this huge way. So there's a lot to be excited about. I mean, we have an image of people in an embrace, and the woodscape is from the Monte Plains, like it's right here. And, come on by, come check it out, see how beautiful it is, and come to a show at the Shea.
Also, if you come by and Darren's working, he's got a notepad up at the front. You can just leave a note about what you're thinking about the process and what you think about the art as it's happening.
Because you're up on a cherry picker with the earbuds in, right?
Yes. So yeah, if I can't hear,
because otherwise people would just yell at you.
Yeah, and you oftentimes can't see the AirPods, so I promise. The main reason we put the note there is so that people know I'm not ignoring them, and I would love to talk to them. I just, I need to be.
You gotta get this thing done.
Working. Yeah. So it's really nice to go over there and read, anything like. Leave a note, please, like good or bad. I just want to. The feedback is nice to have, regardless.
What are you listening to in your earbuds?
Mostly podcasts.
What podcasts? Fabulous 413.
Mostly Conan.
Oh yeah, can't fault you there.
Yeah.
I think that we are a prophylactic. I think that the birth rate drops when my voice is heard.
I don't know. I go back and forth. I think it goes up when my voice is heard.
Maureen Pollack, town planner, town of Monte.
Speaking of stopping by and checking it out, Darion will be here painting all week, and he hopes to be finished by Sunday.
Yeah, weekend, yep.
And we'll be having a ribbon cutting 4 p.m. this Saturday, September 14th. And that is right after a wonderful river culture sponsored event at the Shea. Suzanne.
We have an academic talk at the Shea Theater at 1 p.m. with Dr. Marge Bruchak.
Who is part of the indigenous community. She's being brought here by they used to be called Friends of Wissatinawag, now they're called
Nolan Project. Yeah, the Nolan Project, our friends at Nolan Project. So we have a great academic talk from 1 to about 3:30, and we're going to have a great reception in the lobby, and then we're going to hear what she's going to talk about, she's going to put indigenous medicine inside of history. So how it is that native and non-native people were treated in the 19th century with indigenous healers. So it's going to be super interesting, and that starts at 1 p.m. here at the Shea.
And stick around. After the lecture, the ribbon cutting will be at 4 o'clock.
Is this sort of like testing the waters for other potential community art projects in Turners?
Yes. Yes. We want to promote more public art throughout Turners and other villages, so throughout the whole town. And if folks have any ideas of any particular type of art or medium or locations, feel free to reach out to Suzanne Lomanto, River Culture Director.
Darion Fleming, you're from North Carolina?
Yes, Charlotte. Yep.
Charlotte, North Carolina.
That's where my cousins live.
Nice.
I have a lot of family along that corridor, and
great area.
You've never.
Not for everyone.
You haven't been here before, but you've been spending a good deal of time here getting ready for this mural. You told me you've been, skateboarding up and down the area around here. Tell us your very brief but small impressions of what you've experienced here from the community, from the history dump that we gave you about the massacre that happened across the river. What's your impressions of this place where we live?
Well, first of all, it's beautiful. Second, everyone's been really, really kind and really just welcoming, and just very interested in where I'm from and my story, and vice versa. I will also say it's kind of funny. I don't come up to New England very often. I haven't been here since I was a kid, but my dad grew up here, grew up in Maine, and he's very matter of fact and very just open with his opinion and how he shares it. And I'm very similar. I picked that up from him. I'm very dry in the way I just say things, and I feel like that's fairly common up here.
Yeah.
Which has been awesome, because I just think that's how it should be.
There's no bless your heart here in New England.
Yeah.
We just tell it like it is.
And I'm coming from the South, where it's like all Southern hospitality and stuff. But so that's been really nice. Like, I know that's a weird thing to point out, but that's just something I noticed that I thought was pretty cool. But yeah, no, Turners has been amazing. I've been skateboarding every night. When I finish painting, I just go down to the Connecticut River and the trail down there, and I skateboard.
You been to our skate park?
I didn't even know there was
What?
Yeah,
Oh my!
skate
It's
park.
right there. It's like
Yeah.
Really?
It's like
You can walk-
less than half a mile
You can walk
from
from here.
So I had no idea. So
We need to hang out more,
that's
Darren.
perfect. That's perfect.
You should have stayed at my house. I could
Yeah, I
have
wish-
told you all the things.
He's been
Yeah, I wish-
busy. He just got here.
I need there to be about 6 more hours in the day.
If you text me, I'll have my children lead you to my swim spot, which we never let anybody do.
Okay,
But since
all
you're
right.
leaving, we'll allow it. Britt Ruhe from Commonwealth Murals. There's something big happening next week, and we get a little teaser because I think we may be coming to visit you there in Springfield.
That would be amazing. I hope you do. So we are installing a mural starting on Saturday that was originally painted in 1974 by the most amazing Nelson Stevens. And this project has been a training program for 8 local artists to learn community engaged mural making. So we're going to start installing that on Saturday. We'll be there every day for the week, and then a big ribbon cutting in celebration of his legacy on the 21st.
So psyched to have another one restored because I get to go by at least one of them going to like the east side of town, and they're just beautiful.
More murals for my commute. Woo!
Yeah, more murals, more better.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
If you're interested in the ribbon cutting, the talk about indigenous medicine, or any other river culture gets up to in the Turners Falls, Great Falls area, you can check out riverculture.org.
Coming up later in the show, paying homage to the late, great James Earl Jones. But up next, we'll explore the magical yet and the curious why even with newly minted New York Times bestselling author from Amherst, Angela DiTerlizzi.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
NEPM's podcasts are funded by Armbrook Village Senior Living in Westfield, with support services designed to help seniors age in place, including a Compass Memory Support Neighborhood. More at armbrookvillage.com.
Welcome back to the Fabulous 413. We're joined in studio by Angela DiTerlizzi, whose website describes her as a mom, wife, and author who delights in writing rhythmic, charming picture books to be enjoyed and shared by both parents and children alike.
From making up faces to making up stories, Angela now creates books inspired by her love of words and pictures, nature, animal, vintage, toys, little golden books, and most importantly, her family.
In 2013, her debut picture book, Say What, appeared in over 1 million boxes of Cheerios as part of the General Mills Spoonfuls of Stories program. That sounds awesome. She and her husband, best-selling author, illustrator Tony DiTerlizzi, live with their daughter, Sophia, and their dog, Mimi, in Amherst, Massachusetts.
And most recently, Angela's latest book explores exploration with young readers and the folks reading to them with a series that started with The Magical Yet and continued this year with The Curious Why. Angela joins us in studio right now. Congratulations. After years of writing children's books, you are now officially New York Times bestselling author from Amherst, Angela DiTerlizzi.
Oh my goodness, this is so exciting. This is the first time that someone else has said that to me, and it wasn't just me saying it to myself.
Yes.
So thank you for that.
Congratulations.
It was fun opening the print edition on Sunday and opening the New York Times book review section, as I do so frequently, and looking through the bestseller list. And they don't always print the children's book bestseller list, but there you were
Who
at
cares?
number...
The New York Times does not care about the children.
They do, like, every third week. But there you were at number 8, and it's already gone up since there.
It's gone up since then. So every Wednesday, the list comes out. So the first week, my agent called me and said, have you seen the list? Now, keep in mind, this is a book that came out 4 years ago.
Wow.
So I was like, what list are you talking about? I have no idea what list you're talking about. She said, the New York Times bestseller list, you're on it, you're number 8. And so I was flipping out. And then so the following week on Wednesday, I got the same call and it said it's gone up to number 7.
Wow.
Yay.
It's like Jamie Lee Curtis winning an Emmy yesterday or whatever, Sunday, for a thing she did like 2 years ago on The Bear. Why? I'm curious as to why, despite the fact that your book is called The Curious Why, The Magical Yet, which came out 4 years ago, is only now becoming a New York Times bestseller.
So The Magical Yet came out in May of 2020. So
what happened
then? That you know, I had a national book tour scheduled at that point, which mysteriously just went away.
Oh, yeah.
So I guess we hit the pause button for the past 4 years. But funny enough, a book about Yet became very popular during a pandemic. And it became this new favorite, this perennial favorite for back to school. It just grew and grew year over year. And, my publisher was letting me know that the sales were growing. Teachers, librarians, educators, families were using this book. And what started out out as not seeing your grandparents yet or your friends yet or being in your classroom yet has really just turned into the thing it was originally created for, which was an idea about growth mindset and the fact that you can get better at something that you're not good at yet.
It's such a great meditation on patience, especially with oneself, which you don't necessarily get at that age. I was such a joy to read. And I do have to ask my question because, like, having gone through this in a similar fashion, like, how did you hook up with your illustrator? Because the illustrations for both of these books are gorgeous. They're so pretty.
Oh, thank you so much. So the illustrator is Lorena Alvarez Gomez. I am in love with her illustrations. When usually the author and illustrator have nothing to do with each other throughout the entire process.
Yeah, I'm aware.
Unless you happen to be married to the illustrator, which I have been in the past. But what had happened was my editor at the time presented me with 3 different illustrators and said, which one of these would you like to work with? I saw Lorena's work. I said, I've been a huge fan of her work for years. It reminds me of almost like a modern day Mary Blair who designed It's a Small World. It's colorful, it's inviting, it's diverse. And that was exactly what I had pictured to pair with my work.
It definitely has a small world feel to it now that you say that.
For sure.
It's beautiful. It really is stunning stuff. And we've hinted at, and you've kind of alluded to the magical yet and what it's all about. But you don't have the book with you right now, or do you? You probably have a line or two memorized from it, maybe?
I do. I've got a whole stack of them. But
not Tony DiTerlizzi, Tony Dunn, the other Tony D, who's in the studio, our director. He's bringing the book over to Ange. There it is.
So cute.
It is the most beautiful thing.
I love the art of this book. It's so perfect.
Yeah.
I do too. It was when I first saw that art come in, it was just emailed to me and some initial sketches first. And then when I saw the final artwork and just how vibrant it was, I was so excited. I fell completely in love. But
did it make Tony DiTerlizzi, author, illustrator, jealous? How good it was?
I don't think he was jealous on this one.
He's got his hand in his face in the other room.
He does have certain manuscripts that I've written where he's like, well, I want to do that book about bugs. Why don't you want me to do it? I'm like, honey, you're a little busy.
Well, can you read a little bit of this book for us?
Sure, absolutely.
It's interesting because you can go on YouTube and see other people reading your book, Ange, and I was asking you beforehand, you don't that's kind of just taking your intellectual property and putting it out there for good and for bad. You're not getting any money from that, which is kind of a drag.
I'm not getting any money from that, but it does introduce people to the story.
Yeah.
And hopefully they love it enough to go out and purchase a copy from their local independent bookshop.
Right. And it's also really sweet because it's usually like a school teacher that's decided to become like a YouTube influencer at the same time. So good on them.
I saw one video of a woman in front of her class, and they had all made their own yets.
Yes.
And I'm like, I want one of those. I mean, the minute I saw the yet in the book, I was like, I need a plushie of this.
Yeah,
I keep saying that exact thing. I was like, I want my yet on my backpack. I want him on my tote. I want to carry him with me all the time. And actually, that was just something that I had envisioned was when I saw this art of this kind of pink, ethereal, magical creature. I was like, oh, I'd love kids to be able to make their own yets and have them with them. So it's been so cool to see kids designing all their own yets.
So because the yet gets anthropomorphized in this book.
Yes, correct.
By Angela DiTerlizzi, which she's going to read a little bit for us right now.
Sure.
New York Times best-selling author, I should say. Angela DiTerlizzi.
Hopefully I hold up compared to all the kindergarten teachers who've been watching on YouTube.
You're going to knock it out of the park, Ange.
You will be way less interrupted.
Yeah, that's true.
This is when we need James Earl Jones.
Oh yeah.
No.
Who we're going to talk about with Tony, who wrote the book of Star Wars, actually, too. So it's sad and perfect timing that you're both here today.
There are days when your dreams haven't come true, or you're upset by the things you can't do. If you've lost or failed or cried just a bit, you're tired of waiting and ready to quit. Like that shiny new bike that you couldn't ride, and it didn't matter how hard you tried. You couldn't pedal, and you couldn't steer, and you couldn't get that bike into gear. Then when you thought you were on the right track, you popped a wheelie and fell on your back. And now you won't ride, no way, not ever, no riding for you. You'll walk forever. But don't give up now. There's a major game changer, the most amazing thought rearranger, someone to show you how good you can get. Now introducing the magical yet.
Come on, that was great. That was way better than all the teachers I saw reading it on YouTube.
Booyah!
Love you teachers too.
She might be a little close to the material.
Yeah, she's great.
I also want to ask you about using rhyme. Children's books often use a lot of rhyme. Just to, the repetition of things is always good to get concepts in people's brain. I know when Holly and I were working together, we kind of weren't able to wrap our heads around making the story of Sir Maureen rhyme. But it seems so natural and so easy for you in the work of yours that I've read. Can you talk about working in rhyme a little bit?
Sure, absolutely. So when I was young, I wrote a lot of bad poetry. But when I was about 7 years old, I found this book. It was called The Book All About Me. And in it said, the person I hope to be most like when I grow up is Dolly Parton, is who I wrote. And so I always heard stories like Dolly Parton's music. I heard them in rhyme. I loved it for the anticipation of trying to figure out what the next word was going to be. Kitchen and ambition, stumble out of it, oh my gosh, that's so cool. So it's just actually always the way that I heard stories. When I was in high school, I wrote this terrible poem called Ode to a Rose, and I thought it was really cheesy. And I was like, I'm phoning in this poem for the poetry unit. And my teacher handed out Miss Barbara Walters, not the Barbara Walters, by the way, just so you know. But she handed everyone's papers back except mine. I was like, oh, she called me up to the front and she said, we need to talk. And I was like, oh, she knows I phoned it in. And she said, Angela, you're really good with rhyme. You need to keep writing.
Because it's such a hard territory to work in well.
Yes.
A lot of people write rhyme just for the sake. And I think a lot of people are like, yeah, I want to write a kid's book. And then it's in rhyme. And then maybe not. So, meter and things like that. And just keep choosing interesting words and vocabulary. There's a lot to consider as you're writing it out. So often I will just write it out in kind of the normal beats of the story and then turn it into rhyme.
We're talking with the newly minted New York Times bestselling author, Angela DiTerlizzi from Amherst, whose book from 4 years ago, The Magical Yet, just appeared on the New York Times bestseller list, but whose The Curious Why is also out and is also a fantastic book where one of the things that The Curious Why wants to do is find out how crayons get made, which to me was an homage to Mr. Rogers. I don't know if it's intentional or not. But it's interesting, Ange, because, we mentioned Tony, who's in the other room, and he'll be on the show in just a little bit. He's been doing books and as an author and illustrator, Spiderwick Chronicles with Holly Black, as we just mentioned, for a long time. And you come from a background in makeup, where you were doing makeup for the Saturday Night Live and MTV and the Today Show, and for bands like Metallica and Depeche Mode and Duran Duran, and for President Bill Clinton. Talk about the transition from Angela DiTerlizzi, makeup artist, to Angela DiTerlizzi, New York Times bestselling author.
Well, so we lived in New York City for 7 years, and I worked in television, worked on all these shows, and then I moved to a town called Amherst, Massachusetts, where no one wears makeup. And I was like, I better find a new job. No, actually, that's not the case. I have plenty of friends who wear makeup, including your lovely wife,
Yes,
Monte.
They're just all ashamed to do it in certain circles.
But what had happened was, it was actually when we moved here, I was like, I'm going to go into New York for certain clients. And then I was like, that 3-hour train ride seems a little bit longer than I was willing to take. But I was working with Tony. His career had taken off. He had gotten the Caldecott honor for The Spider and the Fly. Spiderwick Chronicles was taking off. So I was helping him with his career. And it wasn't probably until about 4 or 5 years after we lived here, our daughter was born. And I was like, maybe I can try my hand at this children's book writing business. And it was, she had inspired a story with my first book called Say What? The one that ended up in the Cheerios boxes, actually.
Which is it's a cool book that looks at animal noises and what they might really mean if translated properly.
How did Cheerios choose you to put their book in as the prize in their cereal?
Well, they did a program called Spoonfuls of Stories, and they wanted families who might not have access to books to be able to have a book. It was bilingual. It was in English and Spanish, and it was a free book that families could have just from buying a box of Cheerios. And they get a very long list of books from Simon & Schuster, who they were partnering with at the time. And then they chose those books, and I guess they liked mine because it was like very vibrant, simple rhyme. And yeah, they picked it. It was so exciting when I got that. I was like, wait, what? My book? Okay. oh, sure. Awesome. And then, of course, every time I went into any grocery store, I had to go and root through the cereal aisle and take my picture. I would take, bag boys and people at the register. I'd be like, hey, you have to let everybody know, that's my book. Oh, I did do it.
I love it. But also, in children's books, there's different levels of ages that you're writing for. I don't know if people clearly understand, because when they go out and buy books for these children, they're looking in certain age ranges. And you write kind of across a wide spectrum of those ages. Do you find it easier to write for the youngest of the younger audiences, or kind of towards the end of the picture book spectrum?
I feel like every time I write a story, in the case of The Magical Yet, I'm writing affirmations for myself as well. So yes, this is about, this might be for a 5-year-old who can't tie their shoes yet, but this also might be for a 51-year-old mom whose daughter is a senior in high school and doesn't know what is coming next and what their yet is going to be. So I think I write across the spectrum, and it's not necessarily, okay, I'm writing for 4 to 7-year-olds. I try to write kind of universal themes, like adults can be grossed out by bugs too. So can kids. What are these questions or fears or affirmations that we need? Those are the things that I tend to write my stories about.
And also, in similar fashion, Magical Yet was the start of a series, of which Curious Why is the second one. What's coming after Yet and Why?
There's so many good question words.
There's so many good questions.
You really you've tapped into a well.
Who is the new cute thing that I get to covet as a plushie?
Okay, so these are all things that I'm dealing with. So right now, in everything that's going on, right? So we had 2 TV shows come out this past year. We, like I said, a senior thinking about college. I need to practice mindfulness. So we are going to be focusing on the marvelous now.
Wow.
And that will be coming out in 2025.
We could go.
We may need it before that. Like now. We might need it now. Yeah, maybe even tonight. Yes.
When is now? When
now?
Will then be now?
Is it now? You were saying that, this might be for a parent whose kid is going into high school or whatever, not knowing what to expect. I think I saw some on your social media, as everybody was celebrating you about this, that this is something that people actually kind of give as a gift for people in hard times, be they children or not. And I think of, Oh, the Places You'll Go. Dr. Seuss's book is often given as a graduation present. Is it this new school year that has propelled The Magical Yet into the New York Times bestseller list? Because people want to encourage people as they're starting a new part of their life, as September often poses for people, and it's a new chapter.
Absolutely. And I think really the teachers are who I have to thank for this, and the educators, because they're tagging me left and right. They're bringing this into their classrooms and starting conversations about the things you can't do yet, but maybe you'll be able to achieve by the end of the year or even next week. Who knows? I would say yet knows things, won't happen overnight. Some things take days, months, or years to get right. Sorry, it's been 4 years since I wrote this.
Yeah,
Sorry
right.
about that.
But you can still basically rattle it off.
Yeah.
That's a massive task.
It is.
That's an accomplishment. You've read this a lot, eh?
Yes. So I think that's why, too, this is now coming back year after year, and maybe an alternate to All the Places You'll Go, and just maybe a character on the front cover who looks a little bit different than kids in Oh, the Places You'll Go.
Yeah.
I think that's why, it's now bringing in classrooms a lot. So it's kind of this nice little window from the end of summer until the Halloween New York Times bestsellers come out, where they're like, hey, this is the opening.
Yeah. Maybe the Spider and the Fly will be back up there again. It's interesting that the book is called The Magical Yet. It came out in 2020, and that it was not a New York Times bestseller then, but it is now. It was like The Magical Yet had to go through the process of being The Magical Yet to get to that achievement.
Yes. Well, this book went through so much yet in general. So there is a lot of crazy backstory with this book. This book actually went through, now it is with Little Brown, books for young readers. But prior to that, it was with another publisher that sold off his backlist, and this was one of them. I had 3 different agents on this book. Mm-hmm. I had 3 different editors on this book. So and every point I was like, this is the end of the line.
Yeah.
The tour's canceled. My editor's pregnant. It's going to another publisher. What is going to happen? And, and that was actually, I talked to Mo Willems, Mo Willems of Elephant and Piggy and Knuffle Bunny fame. And he said, listen, you don't know where it's going to go. You don't know what is going to happen. It'll all be okay. And I was like, yes, thank you for that reassurance. I needed to hear
Williams recited, basically gave you the gist of your book back to you as encouragement. And there's something really lovely about that. I was wondering about that because I was looking at all of your books on Simon & Schuster and I'm like, this one isn't up on there. Where is this series? Where is it at? And that makes so much sense. I'm so sorry.
I was at first, but now I'm so grateful because it's really given me that perspective. And everybody hopes that you have a book that has like a really nice long tail. And I think now we think about books, at least publishers do in terms of movies, like, is it hitting that bestseller list?
Yeah.
You're out there. And in fact, I was on tour for The Curious Why. And I had found out I was on the road for 2 weeks. I'm doing 4 school events a day. And the New York Times bestseller list came out and I wasn't on it. And I didn't want to disappoint the publisher. And I was in the back of the car when I got the call and I looked up and I saw a license plate. I don't remember what the numbers, we'll just say 376. And then it said yet.
I love that. It's like this book has become like sort of some sort of token of magic for you. It is the magical yet.
Did each of those 3 editors have really good things that shaped how the book now appears to us? Or was it always in this form and you just kind of needed to eventually find its real shepherd?
So it was the first editor at Disney that had the original vision and presented me with the 3 illustrators, and she really got it. And we really worked together closely on this. And then she had her own yet, which was she got pregnant. And so she took some time off, and I ended up working with another editor. And then Disney sold this off to Little Brown, and I got a new editor who is my current editor. Deirdre Jones is incredible. And she has continued the vision for this series now, both with The Curious Why and now with the Marvelous Now. And so now she is shepherding this. And then I have a whole new slew of people who are now invested in it. And so it's been great because they all add something new to it, whether it's marketing or publicity or an editorial comment. They're all bringing something new to it and starting new conversations.
Well, it's a fantastic story. It's an inspirational story. It's a gorgeously illustrated story. And it is now a New York Times best-selling story. The Magical Yet from New York Times best-selling author Angela DiTerlizzi from Amherst. We're going to take a little break, and we're going to welcome another New York Times best-selling author and fan of Star Wars, your husband, Tony DiTerlizzi, as well as our director, Tony Dunn, another fan of Star Wars, into the studio.
And we're all going to be giant nerds and talk about all the things we liked about James Earl Jones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
NEPM's podcasts are funded by Armbrook Village, offering research-based arts, music, fitness, and lifelong learning programs at their assisted living and Alzheimer's care community in Westfield. armbrookvillage.com. The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by the UMass 5 College Credit Union, offering co-op advantage checking with cash back on all purchases, plus secure debit card controls, all from the UMass 5 mobile banking app. Insured by NCUA, umass5.coop.
Welcome back to the Fabulous 413. This from the NPR obituary from yesterday. One of America's most beloved actors, James Earl Jones, died Monday at age 93. He was at home in Dutchess County, New York, surrounded by his family, his longtime agent Barry McPherson, confirmed to NPR.
In addition to an illustrious stage career, which included roles in classics like Macbeth, Othello, and The Iceman Cometh, Jones also had an extensive film career, appearing in Doctor Strangelove, Field of Dreams, and The Hunt for Red October. He voiced Mufasa in The Lion King, and as Darth Vader, he delivered the line that still sends shivers up the spines of Star Wars fans.
No, I am your father.
Contrary to popular belief, not Luke. I am your father, which is a common misnomer. Yes. Tony DiTerlizzi, you wrote a storybook version of Star Wars based on the drawings of Ralph McQuarrie, who is the iconic, who did all the storyboards for this movie that has impacted so many of our lives. What's your take on the loss of James Earl Jones as a Star Wars fan?
Oh my gosh! I mean, I thought we were going to talk about Conan first of all, because I like that.
We are definitely going to talk about Conan, because Conan was my introduction to James Earl Jones outside of all of his blaxploitation movies. But that's a little bit later.
Yeah, feel free to talk about Conan too, though.
I mean, like,
no, I think that the idea as a kid, first of all, as a kid, I thought he was in the suit. I just thought,
it's hard not to.
Yeah, I think that it goes to show how not just how resonant and powerful sonic his voice was, but how that acting could come through in that vocal performance, and it's being put through some kind of filter to make it sound mechanical, and they're adding the breathing and still, as a kid, you're scared. You're terrified.
It's like the scariest thing of all time.
So good.
Yeah.
It's so good. And it was easy to replicate. Yeah. So now when you're a kid playing, you're running around going,
or you're standing in front of a fan in the summertime.
Yes.
I am your father.
Yeah.
Tony Dunn, you're also a big Star Wars and film nerd.
I am.
You're our director. Tell us your recollections of James Earl Jones.
Oh, gosh. I mean, just the emotion in his voice as Darth Vader, for a character that is so cold visually and presents such malice, the range that he was able to, the whole character was created through his voice, more so than even the image. And there's not a lot of, you heard James Earl Jones, for those of us of a certain generation, you heard James Earl Jones's voice, and you heard Darth Vader.
Mm-hmm. Which was his CB handle, I heard, by the way, until he scared too many people with it as like an amateur CB enthusiast.
That's amazing.
And as someone who has seen, I don't know if anybody else here has, but has seen some of the raw footage of David Prowse delivering the lines, and the big thing was
from inside the suit.
Yes, from inside the suit, and there was a big falling out. David Prowse the whole time, who was the actor inside of Darth Vader's costume, an English bodybuilder and stuntman, he was under the impression he was going to be the voice of Darth Vader, and there was a big falling out between him and George Lucas after that because of that. They had a contentious relationship. That aside, you marvel even more. Thank God for James Earl Jones, because it's this strange Cockney English voice coming out, barking these things. But yeah, just incredible emotion, and he touched so many lives through this one character. But he did, as Khalees, notes earlier, he did so much more.
I mean, my first introduction to him was not in Star Wars. It was Conan the Barbarian, because my dad's a giant Arnold Schwarzenegger fan, and also 38 and 56 would show that movie all of the time, minus the orgy scene. But the introduction of Thanos in the beginning of that movie is just iconic and wonderful. Again, to see your enemies driven before you and hear the lamentations of the women. There's reasons why we repeat this, and they're terrible.
No, he was imposing and scary in that,
too. He was fantastic in it. Just utterly fantastic.
And then he's so awesome in Field of Dreams.
Oh, my God. I almost pulled the quote from Field of Dreams when he talks about baseball and the love of baseball, which is amazing. But, Khalees, you pulled a quote from another movie.
I did. I'd nearly forgotten that he's in Matewan. And as Few Clothes, one of the workers who brought in to break the strike to work in night while the regular coal miners are working. And I pulled a tiny clip from him going to the union meeting.
What's your name, son?
They calls me Few Clothes. I didn't come here looking for no trouble. The men's got to eat.
So why don't you go eat back where you come from?
They told me me today was jobs, you know.
Goddamn scab.
You watch your mouth, Peckerwood. I've been called, and I can't help that the way white folks is, but I ain't never been called no scab. And I ain't fixing to start up now.
James Earl Jones and Matewan, the John Sayles movie. We'll have another John Sayles movie that we're focusing on a Monday show. Spoiler alert. I also found it amazing that Mr. Hooper from Sesame Street was James Earl Jones's acting coach. So when Sesame Street was in pilot form, James Earl Jones came on to record the pilot, and he recorded some of the alphabet, which has now made its way around the internet. But his simplicity in reading the alphabet so clearly to children is incredible. Let's hear a couple of his letters from Sesame Street.
A, B.
It set the template and
C.
the tone for what Sesame Street would become. And the fact that he's connected to Mr. Hooper in such an interesting way is incredible.
And then he got all that money from Verizon, and good on him.
Yeah. Yes. Final thoughts on James Earl Jones, Tony DiTerlizzi?
He will. I think the great thing is he achieved immortality. You know, we'll get to we'll be celebrating him, and our children will be celebrating him and his amazing legacy and his performances for generations to come. That's pretty amazing. And to live to 93, surrounded by the people you love.
Yeah,
we could all be so lucky.
Yeah.
I think you have to play the number 2 from Letterman.
Oh yes, before we run out of time.
Meow, 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 meow.
Those were things. Go ahead.
Yeah, the things that only sound cool when James Earl Jones is saying them. There's a whole list of 10, but like number 1, which unfortunately has too much laughter in it to use, and number 2 are kind of my favorites.
That was number 2, the Meow Mix theme.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tony DiTerlizzi. Congratulations, Angela DiTerlizzi, New York Times bestselling author from Amherst.
Thank you.
On the next Fabulous 413, we'll explore expansive new art that covers much more than just wall space all over the valley. We'll talk with artists Janiro Castro and Kathy Couch of APE Gallery about exorcism equals liberation.
We'll also chat with Rhett Miller of the Old 97s, who'll be at the Drake in Amherst Wednesday night to hear about their latest album and more. Plus, you can join NEPM at a presidential debate watch party tonight. You might see us.
And we might want to talk to you about your thoughts on the debate. We'll see you tomorrow on the Fabulous 413.